morning, I am Aprila Lama and these are the headlines of the hour. Trump wins Florida as vote counting picks up in key states while preliminary projections show Trump is on the lead. Political stability plans remain unfulfilled as both parties stay silent. Constitutional amendment talks between Congress and UML stalled. Airport closes for 10 hours daily from 8th of November to next year of 31st March. Closure for construction pushes airfare prices up. And Cristiano Ronaldo strikes as Al Nassr's fastest holder Al Ain in 5-1 in the Asian Champions League. Welcome back. Despite an agreement between the Nepali Congress and CPN-UML to amend the constitution as part of forming the government, there has been no progress on the issue after 4 months. Both parties, while agreeing on the need for constitutional changes to ensure political stability, have remained silent and there has been no public discussion on the proposed amendments. The issue of constitutional amendment is seen to be more of a political agenda than constitutional, legal and research-based. Since the coalition government was formed, both the parties have not made the amendment of the constitution a topic of discussion. The political agendas put forward by the two parties does not seem to be based on any kind of study or analysis. The executive does not seem to have studied the amendment of the constitution so far. Even the judiciary has not ordered a direct amendment to any provisions of the constitution. The studies conducted by the legislative body has emphasized on timely lawmaking and full implementation. On the other hand, the report of the Constitutional Commission, which gives suggestions regarding the implementation of constitution and laws, has not yet been given any importance. The Parliament, which has the responsibility of reporting, it has not been able to discuss such issues. Leaders of these parties have said that the main reason for political instability is the electoral system. However, without any solid roadmap, study and preparation, the revision process cannot ensure stability. Amendments made on the basis of greed and political interest cannot provide a solution. Now, Trivandrum International Airport will close for 10 hours daily from 8th of November up until next year, 31st March, for runway expansion, reducing flights by 35%. Airlines have raised ticket prices by up to 50% due to the disruption. The Civil Aviation Authority Nepal has informed the international and domestic air service providers that flights will be suspended for 10 hours and requested them to provide services from Gautam Buddha International Airport, Bhairava and Pokhara International Airport as an alternative. 30% international and 35% domestic flights and landings from Kathmandu will be reduced due to airport closure for 10 hours. There are 100 international and 350 domestic flights from the airport daily. The capacity of the airport is about to be increased with the help of more than 15 billion loans from Asian Development Bank. After this construction, it is estimated that the capacity of the runway of the airport will increase by 25%, which the authority plans to complete this year. The second day of Chhath festival is being celebrated by worshipping the sun in several parts of Tarai region. The worship of the household deity in the evening is observed by devotees fasting during Chhath. Families exchange offerings like fruits and sweets and invite the Chhath deity at night. Tomorrow, the devotees who are fasting will take a holy dip in the evening to worship the sun god. On Friday, devotees will gather near a river or a reservoir early in the morning to pray to the rising sun, completing the festival. According to Mahabharata, when the Pandavas were in hiding with Draupadi, they prayed to the sun god. It is mentioned that the Pandavas lived in Kirat kingdom of Mithila. It is said that the tradition of celebrating Chhath started from that era. Around 3 billion amount has been collected in the disaster relief fund. However, victims of flood have shared grievances of not receiving relief. 1,877.7 million rupees has been collected in Prime Minister Disaster Relief Fund up to now. Likewise, the Disaster Management Fund under the Home Ministry has over 1 billion rupees. The amount comes after government appealed to rehabilitate the affected from different political parties, government offices, non-governmental organizations and donors. Premier Oli has stated that more than 2 billion amounted will be provided for the rehabilitation of the victims of disasters. However, the 1 billion rupees that was planned to release is yet to happen. Meanwhile, Ministry of Home Affairs has said 430 million rupees has already been sent to affected families through the District Disaster Management Fund. Families of the deceased have been given 200,000 rupees each. Likewise, the displaced family with less than 5 members have been given 15,000 rupees and those with more than 5 members 20,000. The government has declared 71 local levels of 20 districts as crisis-ridden. Meanwhile, the flood victims of the Kaveri-Panauti 12 area have said they have been deprived of relief due to delay in data collection by the local level. Due to the inefficiency of local level, the victims are yet to receive the relief amount for temporary residence and food materials. Victims of flood and landslides could not enjoy the recent festivities as they were compelled to spend their days in makeshift arrangements. As Ministry of Home Affairs collected data from 8 flood-affected districts, it has been estimated that the losses incurred accounts to 14 billion rupees. The survey has also highlighted negligence of the district administration office that led to the death of 35 in Japli River, Dhading. The feeble implementation of government's prohibition in vehicle operation during nighttime has been attributed to the scale of losses. Concerned ministries report that the full detail of the incident is yet to be received. The Ministry of Home Affairs had recognized 9 local levels as highly affected, 12 as moderately affected and 50 as slightly affected. The highly affected areas have been sent 10 million rupees, moderately affected 7.5 million rupees, while slightly affected areas have been sent 5 million rupees.
आवासदेखि लिएर पुलहरू समेतको गर्दाखेरि हामीसँग अहिलेसम्म 14 अरब बराबरको क्षति भएको चाहिँ विवरणहरू प्राप्त भएको छ। त्यो विवरणमा केही सम्बन्धित मन्त्रालयहरू क्षेत्रगत तहबाट पनि फेरि थप क्षतिको विवरण पनि सङ्कलन भइरहेको छ। यो क्षतिको विवरण चाहिँ केही बढ्न सक्ने सम्भावना पनि छ। अस्थायी आवासको लागि जिल्ला विपद व्यवस्थापन समितिसँग मार्फत चाहिँ पीडित परिवारहरूलाई चाहिँ राहत उपलब्ध गराउन पनि आवश्यकता अनुसार जिल्लाको माग अनुसार हामीले रकमहरू पठाइरहेको अवस्था पनि छ।
As per the reports of the Ministry of Home Affairs, 50 million rupees has been distributed for temporary housing of the displaced, while 50 million has been distributed as relief. The cooperation of the local level is a must for the rehabilitation of the affected.
जुन 75 लाख रुपैयाँ छ त्यसको एउटा शेड्युल बनाएर ड्राफ्ट पठाएको छ। यसमा चाहिँ तत्काल अब बाटाघाटा शिक्षा स्वास्थ्य सबै कुरा आछन्। सँगसँगै उनीहरूलाई दिनुपर्ने राहत क्षतिपूर्ति त्यो निकै ठुलो कुरो भएकाले यसलाई हामीले अब त्यसले सामान्य सरकारले हेर्यो एड्रेस गर्यो भन्ने मात्रै हो, तर त्यसलाई हामीले व्यवस्था चाहिँ गर्ने हो र पुरानै अवस्था ल्याउने हो भने हामीले अझै करोडौं खर्च चाहिँ गर्नुपर्ने माग्नुपर्ने संघ सरकारलाई त्यो परिस्थिति देखिन्छ।
It is time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Researchers question what is the reason for the delay in rehabilitation of disaster victims despite almost 3 billion rupees in the government disaster fund. Your options are A, procedural hassle, B, not in priority, or C, government still collecting data. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. It is time for international news. Voting for the presidential election has ended in 48 states in America, including important battleground state Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania as well. Georgia is one of the 7 states that will decide the results of the presidential election. Some results in Georgia might start coming in within the hour. A dozen more states will close their polls in the next 2 hours or so, including in swing states Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, and Wisconsin. According to the initial exit polls, democracy and economy are the biggest issues for voters in this election. According to BBC, Trump is projected to win traditionally Republican states Indiana, West Virginia, and Kentucky, Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, while Democratic stronghold Vermont, District of Columbia, Maryland, and Massachusetts goes to Harris. Americans are also picking members of the U.S. Congress, and some states are voting on abortion rights. Harris and Trump have picked up early wins in some eastern states, while voters in the west of the U.S. are still queuing up to vote. While 270 votes are required to be elected out of 530 electoral college votes from 50 states and the District of Columbia, according to BBC preliminary projection, Trump is leading by 230 electoral college, while Harris is leading in 105 electoral colleges. Americans are heading to the polls in a mood of discontent and division, with opinion polls showing nearly two-thirds of voters believe that the country has been heading in the wrong direction under President Joe Biden. While the United States economy is in the envy of the industrialized world, emerging from COVID shutdowns with strong job growth and wage increases, many Americans complain those gains were gobbled up by high grocery and housing prices. At this backdrop, the two top contenders, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, are head-to-head.
American voters will face a clear choice for president on Election Day between Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump. Here's a look at what they stand for and how their policies compare on different issues. Harris has said her day one priority would be trying to reduce food and housing costs for working families. She promises to ban price gouging on groceries, help first-time home buyers, increase housing supply, and raise the minimum wage. Trump has promised to end inflation and make America affordable again, and when asked, he says more drilling for oil will lower energy costs. He has promised to deliver lower interest rates, something the president does not control, and he says deporting undocumented immigrants will ease pressure on housing. Economists, however, warn that his vow to impose higher tax on imports could push up prices. Harris wants to raise taxes on big businesses and Americans, while Trump proposes a number of tax cuts worth trillions, including an extension of his 2017 cuts, which mostly helped the wealthy. Harris has made abortion rights central to her campaign. She continues to advocate for legislation that would enshrine reproductive rights nationwide. Trump has struggled to find a consistent message on abortion. The 3 judges he appointed to the Supreme Court while president were pivotal in overturning the constitutional right to an abortion, a 1973 ruling known as Roe v. Wade. As for foreign policy, Harris has vowed to support Ukraine for as long as it takes and pledged, if elected, to ensure the U.S. and not China wins the competition for the 21st century. She has been a long-time advocate for a two-state solution between the Israelis and Palestinians and has called for an end to the war in Gaza. Trump has an isolationist foreign policy and wants the U.S. to disentangle itself from conflicts elsewhere in the world. He has said he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours through a negotiated settlement with Russia, a move that Democrats say would embolden Vladimir Putin. Trump has positioned himself as a staunch supporter of Israel, but said little on how he would end the war in Gaza. Harris, as vice president, helped pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which has funneled hundreds of billions of dollars to renewable energy and electrical vehicle tax credit and rebate programs. But she has dropped her opposition to fracking, a technique for recovering gas and oil opposed by environmentalists. Trump, while in the White House, rolled back hundreds of environmental protections, including limits on carbon dioxide emissions from power plants and vehicles. Harris has made preventing gun violence a key pledge, and she and Tim Walz, both gun owners, often advocate for tighter laws. But expanding background checks or banning assault weapons will need the help of Congress. Trump has positioned himself as a staunch defender of the Second Amendment, the constitutional right to bear arms. Whoever triumphs in the election, Trump or Vice President Kamala Harris, will inherit the legacy of a Biden administration that made good on some promises, saw others swept off course by events, and others still only partially fulfilled.
Election day in the United States looms as many Americans have already cast their votes in early voting in person or by mail. Others have voted in person at registered polling booths. Here are a few facts on the U.S. election system.
The U.S. does not have a centralized election system. They are conducted by local authorities within each state. These authorities adhere to local, state, and federal laws as well as being guided by the U.S. Constitution. Hence, election rules vary among states. In 2020, more than 10,000 local entities administered elections in the U.S. No one is required by law to cast a vote in the country. The U.S. does not have a system of online voting, and voters are assigned polling locations within each district. These locations are generally public buildings such as convention centers, libraries, schools, and community centers. In these locations, voters enter private polling booths to fill out their ballots. Some jurisdictions provide ballot marking devices, BMDs, that allow voters to cast their votes on a digital device. The device then produces a paper record of the vote. About 25% of registered voters live in jurisdictions that use BMDs for all voters. A small number of voters cast their votes using a direct recording electronic DRE voting system, with which voters press a button or touchscreen to cast their votes, which then go directly into the computer system. There is no federal system of counting votes, and the vote count is left up to the states. Hand-marked paper ballots and ballots marked by BMDs are typically counted using optical scanners and then tabulated digitally to obtain a final tally. Different states have different methods of recounting and verifying the final count. The president is not elected directly by the popular vote, but instead by the Electoral College. Under this system, each state has the same number of electors in the Electoral College as its number of seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate. The U.S. has a total of 538 electors who are appointed by the parties and are almost always party officials or supporters. To win, a candidate needs 270 Electoral College votes. These electors will meet on December 17 this year to cast a vote for president and vice president.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fired his defense minister, Yoav Gallant, yesterday, citing a crisis of trust in a video addressed to the public, released by the Prime Minister's office. Netanyahu's office said in a statement that Netanyahu appointed Foreign Minister Israel Katz to succeed Gallant as defense minister, while Gideon Saar becomes the new foreign minister. Gallant and Netanyahu, both in the right-wing party, have clashed for months after the objectives of Israel's 13-month-old war in Gaza against Palestinian militant group Hamas. There had been open disagreements between the two, reflecting a wider split between Israel's right-wing governing coalition and the military, which has long favored reaching a deal to end the fighting and bring home scores of hostages held by Hamas. Gallant said the war lacked clear direction, while Netanyahu that fighting could not cease until Hamas was wiped out as a governing entity and military force in Gaza. Reports appeared in September that Netanyahu, under pressure from far-right coalition partners, was considering firing Gallant. Protesters erupted in Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel after Gallant's firing. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.